The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, and welcome to The People's View. I'm Carl Seidel. I've been a four-term representative up in Concord, and we're going to have with us today Mariellen McKay, who is running for the Senate in Ward 3?
District 13.
District 13, which includes 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9?
And 6.
And 6. Excuse me, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and Don LeBrun.
And I'm running for my life.
But Don served four terms in Health and Human Services, and now was on the state medical committee?
Board of Medicine.
Board of Medicine. Yeah. So we're going to discuss some of the vetoes that were not overturned and just recently. And we can start with the big one, I guess, was the people's the leave, family leave.
Family medical leave. That was a bill that Dan Feltus and I submitted that bill. I think it was probably in 2015 or 16, something like that. And we thought we had a really good bill. Mm-hmm. But as things went on and as it went through committee and whatnot, they started submitting amendments and everything else. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And finally, I just dropped off of it because it was turning into strictly a Democratic-oriented bill instead of a neutral bill. Mm-hmm. And so Dan and I just went separate ways on it. It was unsustainable, even back then. Mm-hmm. They had proposed, initially we had proposed that it would be financed by the individuals. They would opt in to take so much out of their paycheck, and that's how it would be paid for. Mm-hmm. Well, as it went on and morphed into different amendments and whatnot, then it became a tax. So everybody was going to pay for it, whether they liked it or not.
Right.
You were going to pay for it whether you had any kids or not. I was going to pay for it same way. We were all going to pay for it. So I got away from it. And eventually the governor actually came up with a really good bill. He teamed up with the governor of Vermont, and they came up with a really good bill. But I honestly don't know what happened to that bill.
I think they just couldn't get together.
I think when the legislature went overwhelmingly Democratic, it sort of just went away.
They killed that bill.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah. And in the one that you're discussing, even if you were a young adolescent, you were working at Market Basket, say, you would have to pay into it.
That's right.
And
that's what it morphed into.
You could never have gotten that back. You couldn't opt out. No opt-out provisions, which made things really, really cumbersome. It was an income tax.
That's right. And the governor said that he wanted to give people a choice, and it was going to be self-sustaining.
And his plan with the Vermont governor was exactly that.
Right.
You opted in or you opted out. You had your choice.
And there was no control on the fee.
No, it could go up. And the funny part was DHHS had the sole authority to raise it.
Right. So
it didn't have to go through the legislature.
Legislation gave everything away.
Yeah.
So you can see, people, why this thing was vetoed. Yep. I mean, that was essentially his argument. It just was not where we started, and it was going in the wrong direction.
Right.
And how do you give a responsibility to the administrators to control the money?
You can't unless you want it to go out of control.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's even constitutional.
Well, we never found out, so we don't have to worry about that. It went by the wayside before we got that far.
That went pretty well, though, quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was going to take too much away from the citizen
who
had to pay the price to enroll. I really preferred the governor's
The original.
bill. Yeah. I mean, he thought about all that. He was very conscientious
Uh-huh.
and careful thoughts about something lead to something strong, something really good.
Mhm.
And that's what happened. However, you know.
But now here we are 4 or 5 years later, and we still have nothing.
Exactly.
And we do need some sort of medical
Yes.
medical leave bill. We need
do.
something. But we've wasted 5 years now, and we still have nothing. We're right back to square one.
I don't know why that is. Is it, such a divide, or is it just the mentality that, well, you did it, so I'm not going to vote for it? And you just wish that people would come together and work
That's
for
the problem right now.
the best interest of the citizen and not be very, very partisan.
Well, I think that's one of the things is the motive behind it. They probably feel that the more we give away, the more the people will have us reelected. But you're not, people wake up. They know that giving away stuff just raises your tax. And it's not necessary. One thing is I think we agreed on before is that you want choice. You want something that fits
Sure.
your need, not everybody's.
Sure.
You have
Absolutely.
There's too many of those programs that have gone through over the last several years that people try to give one solution to a multifaceted problem. And you can't do that.
No, and somebody has to pay for it.
Right.
And it's going to end up being whoever utilizes it. It's going to be me, you. And it's just not fair if you can't determine how much you want to pay, what you want to do, or if it's not working, to just be able to back out.
Right.
And that, I think, was the biggest crux of the whole issue.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, and a lot of people, I like to throw this in, a lot of people have family around them that can take care of some of those things.
Yeah.
They don't need somebody's help.
That's right.
And why should they pay for something like that? And that's the way it used to be anyway, but even now.
That's the way it should be all the time.
Yeah.
You should always have a choice.
Right.
But even still, with the choice, if there's a new baby
Right.
and, maybe dad wants to stay home for a while and help out, that family medical leave option could be a benefit, should be a benefit, but it's not if it's not facilitated correctly, if it's not administered correctly. It can't be punitive.
Right.
And I think that's what was happening in this bill that tried to get passed. The idea is wonderful. It's
Absolutely.
just the pathway.
And there's commercial programs that are out there if people wanted to pay that they could have. And I imagine some companies throw that in their benefit package. Just to
Senator
attract
Feltes, who's running now for governor, when we submitted this bill, he had a newborn baby. He brought it to the Senate with him.
Really?
And that was his way of showing, look, I shouldn't have to do this.
Right.
But he did. He brought that baby every single day. He had it strapped on him, and he walked around that building with that baby.
That's
It was the cutest.
It was really, very cute.
This was very cute.
Very cute. But that's the way he was
that's
showing people that,
impressive.
if I had
Sure.
family medical leave, I wouldn't have to be doing this. So,
Well, that's good. Don, do you have something else on your list that you wanted to talk about? You got the...
well, the red flag bill.
Oh, yeah.
Also, they upheld the governor's veto on that. I don't know about how you guys feel about it, but I don't want a family member saying that if I get mad one day about something and I say something out untoward or something, that they're going to call the police and say, this guy's
Yeah.
a little
Put a red
bit off
flag
his
on it.
rocker, You got to come and take his guns.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, I don't even know who sponsored that bill.
And there's no way of getting out of it. I mean, you didn't even have a public hearing or anything.
No, you just call the police and say this guy's unfit, and there was no assessment or anything else.
Or your neighbor
The police
would mad
determined
at
whether
you.
to come and take your guns.
My question on all of that is, once the phone call is made and
Yeah.
once the weapons are removed, how long would it take someone to get them back? And what hoops would they have to go through to prove that they had the capacity to get their
Right.
own personal property back?
On their own
That's-
volition, they would have to go to a therapist or something who would finally rule them sane enough to possess a firearm. That they would have to do that at their own expense. The government or the police or family member is not going to do it for them. The family member you probably threw out because they told
They
somebody
called
you were
in.
nuts.
But what if? Now, there's a lot of what ifs in divorce.
Yeah.
And you see stuff that happens where he said, she said happens, and people get accused of things that they don't actually do. Now, if you did something like this just because, what happens to the person who's sitting there suffering the loss? That kind of punishment seems very harsh.
Well, thankfully it got vetoed. So
Good.
it's dead.
Yeah.
It's dead, at least for now.
There's just too many things on there.
Yeah.
Why didn't they ever try to put something in that there was, before they took the guns away, that there was some kind of a review by the police? or
I
something?
didn't see anything like that in there.
No. I mean, that's
I
what.
mean, it was cut and dry. If you got reported, the police had the authority to come and take your weapon.
Yeah. So I'm glad it's gone.
Do you
I mean,
realize how
it's-
many times they'd have to come to my house? They'd get one today, I'd have another one tomorrow. They'd get that one, I'd have another one.
Well done. I'm glad you weren't up there as an example.
We had one guy was an example. He's still in the pen, as far as I know, so we won't talk about that.
Well, there are other things that I think we worried about. Something as basic as the minimum wage. That was vetoed because we haven't.
Well, that was on the same bill.
Oh, was it on?
Yeah, that was on the medical leave bill.
Oh, okay.
That was a sort of a rider on there.
Oh, I didn't realize. Oh,
And
is that
that's-
part of
that's-
the combinations that
That's
they had
the way
to
they
go
were trying to get the red flag
Right,
bill
I
passed
see.
by having the
side
minimum wage
together.
bill.
Yeah, there were a number of those. And one at the end is everything got in.
Yeah, it's sort of like
All
they
the
tacked on marijuana to the, what was the bill they tacked it on to? Full day kindergarten.
Oh,
They
really?
tacked marijuana onto it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's something else. How they all tried to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they had fit.
it's supposed to be germane.
Yeah,
Now, where
right.
is marijuana and all day kindergarten germane?
Somebody can make a case. Somebody can make a case.
They probably stretched it a little bit, but the session before they had 57 vetoes by the
Yeah.
governor,
Yeah.
and this time it was down to like 27 because they compacted them.
Right. Well, the one bill they had was 70 pages long.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what bill was that?
COVID did a number on a lot of things, and so they called them
Right.
either Christmas tree bills or the omnibus bill.
Right.
There were just so many pieces of legislation combined to make one piece of legislation, simply because a lot of the standard rules that
Yeah.
we are all familiar with couldn't be followed, and the process changed. And so I think, in honesty and truth, I think the Senate really did try to do something, and the House, I think, passed most of its bills or all of its bills over to the Senate prior
Right.
to crossover. But I think everybody up there, in fairness, did try to make something happen. COVID,
Well, what I saw too, what bothered me is they didn't have committee hearings.
Well, that,
Yeah,
that
I
just
mean,
flies in the face of what we here in New Hampshire do.
Yeah.
We believe in committee hearings, and
Due
I know
process.
John and I sat in the same committee, and we could sit sometimes for hours.
Yeah.
But we sat.
Mm-hmm.
People
we
have a
did.
right to be heard.
Yeah,
we did.
yeah. Some of them had lot.
Medicaid expansion.
Oh,
How many days did we sit on that one?
yeah, and in Reps Hall.
In Repsol, too, yeah.
Which meant there's more than 100 people or something.
That's right, but you know what? The work of the people was done.
Uh-huh.
Voices were heard, pro and con, and we have Medicaid expansion today.
Mhm.
So there you go. I mean, the process does work.
Yeah, and I think that you can't eliminate that. That's a key element of how we analyze the legislation.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
And there's that should have rejected the bills completely.
Mhm.
They shouldn't even have gotten to the governor's desk.
That's right.
But God bless the governor. He did what was right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But that bill was actually 77 pages, and there were things like construction worker benefits, death benefits to emergency medical technicians, rescue squad members, set up a database to track animal health records, allow for expanded voting for sports book retail locations, and regulate hemp.
They've
All of that was
related
on
to
one bill,
another.
77 pages long, and never went through committee.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of material.
And you
that
wonder
should
why
have
it was
been
vetoed?
vetted.
Yeah.
Well, like I said,
Well, there's one way to prevent that from happening again. Is to elect more Republicans.
That's right. That's right.
So
Well, we've got a Republican sitting there running
that's
for
right.
Senate.
That's right. And we're going
Folks,
to have a lot more.
Mariellen
people.
McKay. Cast your vote for Mariellen McKay,
Thank you very much.
New
I
Hampshire
will
Senate,
accept that
District
vote.
13.
And I do. I want everyone's support and would like the vote. Yes,
Yeah.
we need to do this.
Well, you need somebody like you who's very much involved in all sorts of things and has the technical background to back it up.
Thank you, sir. We try.
Another bill that was vetoed was the one that any insurance company that, let me see how it was worded. It would have required insurance plans that cover maternity benefits to also provide coverage for abortions.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah. So that was vetoed and wasn't overturned.
But that went to people's personal choice, you know, as to paying for something that maybe was a religious objection. That's trying to enforce somebody's opinion on someone else. And I don't support that. If you support that particular issue, fine. But if you don't, you should not have to support
You
it.
should have an opt-out. Or
An opt-out, yes. It shouldn't be mandatory.
Absolutely. There again, why would I want a plan that covers maternity benefits and abortions? If I get pregnant, I'm going to be a rich man,
Yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are.
a real rich man. That $457,000 check, nothing.
It's 470,000.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Well, 13,000 we won't argue
But
over.
it's for the children. It was for
That's
foster
right.
children. And again,
It's for the children.
God bless the governor and the CARES grant. I'm Team Sununu. I just think we got lucky with this guy.
Well, can you explain that a little bit more? Because I don't know if the audience knows what happened.
Okay, well, what happened was in the CARES grants that are federal dollars that came into the state, one of the funded items was a grant for almost $500,000 that was provided to the New Hampshire Foster and Adoptive Parent Association to foster children, foster families, and relative caregivers for children in care could fill out the application for a grant for each individual child for up to $500 because of how COVID has impacted their lives. They lost camp. They have, school that's just remote. There's no more interaction, no more socialization. And imagine, having to sit in your home. Not only are you the parent and you're working, but you're a foster parent and you're caring for other children. Now you're a teacher. Now you're childcare. Now you're so many more things. And a way to create a child's smile, to bring, open air and space to that child, is to support recreational activities, support going maybe to Canopy Lake or Santa's Village or, any of those places, to get out, to get yourself on a bicycle and let those kids feel the wind in their hair and the freedom of being free to just play. And this state is the only state that has done that. So I applaud Gopher. I applaud, and that's the governor's office for emergency or recovery and something, resources and recovery. And I apologize if I've gotten that acronym incorrectly, but the Gopher attorneys, the Gopher committee, the legislative committee for Gopher, and the governor all determined this was, and DCYF, this is a wonderful thing. And now these children have this much support. How fabulous is this?
Well, they ought to be thanking you for part of your contribution on this all.
This is my passion.
Yeah.
We all have a passion, and this is my passion. And to see these children and these families supported, it just makes my heart smile.
Well, I'm sure.
It feels really good.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Gopher. Thank you, Governor Sununu. We owe you. This is big.
Good. Well,
Great governor.
Yeah.
Absolutely great governor.
Yes, he is.
We need him for another 2 or more.
We'll have him for another 2.
Well, we would really like to keep him for at least another 10.
One of the other things that I noticed was the bill to prohibit employers from questioning someone about criminal records
Oh, really?
in employment interviews. I thought that was kind of ridiculous. I was an employer, and that was one of the questions that I always asked. And I hired a couple criminals or ex-criminals. They served their time. They were ex-criminals, but they had a record, and I asked them about it. And I think any employer in his right mind is going to ask questions like that.
Sure.
Because if nothing else, you're going to be on alert for at least the first 30 days or so that a person's working for you. You're going to assess whether there's a tendency to go back to that again or not. And, and that's exactly the way I did it.
It's a red flag I wanted to say, but I don't know.
No, don't say red flag. You can't,
No, but it's
can't say
something
red flag.
that you want to be aware of. So
Sure.
you're looking for whether anything.
There should be no restriction whatsoever on what an employer can ask a potential employee. None whatsoever. That should all
Well,
be.
there's some restrictions. You have to follow the federal guidelines around certain things. You can't ask a woman if she's pregnant. That's a no-no. And there's social things you just shouldn't be able to ask. But things that impact what you would consider how somebody may or may not perform the duty that you're asking them to perform is certainly within the limits and the scope. And it's always been a question that's asked. And if somebody has paid their debt to society and is just living a good life,
Right.
they should be qualified and they should be able to gain gainful employment.
But the employer doesn't know that
Unless they ask.
that they've straightened their life out when they come in for an interview. So why shouldn't he be able to ask them if they have a criminal record or have had a criminal record?
Well, yeah, there's that. I guess some could say it's personal privacy, but that I think is a little different because once you've gone into the public domain and done something that is an affront to the public at large, you remove the personal privacy issue because you've made by your actions it public.
Right.
Therefore, it falls in the public domain, in my humble opinion.
No, you're right. You're correct.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
What other ones that you have there, Don? I'll toss in one. on.
Well, there was the one to raise the real estate fee from $25 to $35, and they thought that was just pennies. But when you look at the percentage, you're going from $25, you're raising it by $10, you're raising it 40% or so,
Right.
all at one time.
Yeah.
You know, that's an increase in tax. That's all it amounts to.
What was it supposed to support?
It was the real estate fee for buying and selling homes. The fee went from $25. They wanted to raise it to $35
Where did it go?
to bring. I don't know where it.
Yeah, what they were going to use.
Yeah,
it
I
for.
don't
Is
know
that
what
like
they
the
were-
transfer tax, or
It
I
probably.
don't know. But how many people, when they're buying a new home,
Yeah.
want to, put out even more money? That's a big expense for first-time
Absolutely.
home buyers.
Absolutely. I mean, you're probably talking about a difference. Say the tax would have been $1,500. You're talking about maybe $2,200.
Yeah, so there's a big difference.
A very big difference. But they didn't see it that way. They thought $10 is all we're talking about. No, you're not talking about $10.
Well, I don't know. That's some of the, that's the way they think, though. Another penny in the pot here.
There's not a bill that was vetoed that I had any kind of concern that the governor vetoed it. Every one of them were cut and dry.
Well, one of them I don't understand even now. It got to be getting into a proposed bill, is the reorientation of the voting areas.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Where they
yeah. I think I've got that here somewhere too.
yeah, I mean that was unconstitutional because it's in the Constitution how they do that. It is the responsibility of the representatives to do that.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting to the almost the end, Don. What else did you want to?
I think that's about all I brought with me. That was enough for now.
Well,
We covered a lot.
We saw why things happen too. I mean, things that the legislation shouldn't have done in the first place.
Right.
They wasted a lot of time.
Wasted
And
an
I
awful
think
lot
that
of
we
time.
have to get back. I like to remember, Don, when we both got in there in 2010, when we had unbreakable.
We had a
supermajority. And so things went smooth. We had to cut the budget by almost $1 billion. And we did. We just said, this is what we were going to get for income. So this is what we can do. Figure it out. It wasn't hard. It worked, I thought, very smoothly.
Even with a supermajority, we
Right.
still worked together.
Right.
I don't remember any bill that I filed in the first 2 or 3 years that didn't have Democrats on it as co-sponsors.
Right.
Every single bill.
And as Public Works, I saw a lot of big bills that were done with a complete agreement on the committee.
Yeah.
It should be that way. It should always be bipartisan. I don't think it should be all one way, because everybody in the state isn't all one way. We have all kinds of different ideology and philosophies, and I think that needs to be addressed. So when you see it commingled wonderfully like that, it brings in it encompasses everybody, not just
We
some.
run in our own ward or our own district, but we represent the entire state.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what, I mean, my little ward, Ward 5, 3,100 people or something like that. That doesn't represent the other 1,230,000 or whatever it is. When you run, you get elected, you've got to represent the people, period. And the only way you can do that is by working together.
Well,
Otherwise, you get nothing done, the people get nothing out of it.
what the People's View is going to be doing is interviewing a lot of the Republican candidates. So if you want to hear what they have to say and whether or not you should vote for them, please tune in to the next 8 weeks of People View. Thank you very much for listening in.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
You're welcome.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.